Oh, that board looks familiar.
from a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
I kept some of it because it's related to the issues we'll talk about. But for now, Grape 1. Dr. Frizzell, did you want me to take attendance this week?
Sure, why not?
I'm
Okay.
here. I'm here.
As a point of reference, some of the things that one of the more fun parts of being the PI is I have to write annual reports to the National Science Foundation and to NASA, and they like to know things like how many people are actually showing up and participating, and I have to be able to have evidence that we actually exist and we're doing things. So it's very helpful having this. I'm also probably going to, in the next couple of weeks, come up with some sort of a survey. It should be pretty brief, but it'll say like, ask what's your name, what's your email, which ham sci projects are you working on, and how are you contributing, and do you have any comments? And then this will help me as I again write these reports and can send back, okay, we have this many people actually designing equipment, and we have this many people collecting data, and we have this many, and program officers like that sort of thing.
That is fair. I wonder if there's a way we can get Zoom to do it for us.
I see 24 participants. That's a pretty good turnout.
Yeah.
We're giving away free candy today for Halloween.
Rachel, you could just screenshot the participants list and paste it right into the minutes.
I thought about doing that. I didn't know if it would look too sloppy.
As long as it captures the information, because I don't think. I think the way we're going to end up crunching all the numbers is I think I'm going to put that survey out, and I think just screenshotting it and getting it there is probably, it's better than not having it.
That's fair. Oh,
Rachel,
and our time is really valuable too. So,
Rachel, can you make that image bigger?
Oh, yes, I can.
I can't read it.
The eclipse is next week. We could also this. It's already on here. There it is.
Boom. Thank you.
Okay. We could take one of those awkward pandemic Zoom group meetings next week for the eclipse.
What was that, Rachel?
Oh, I said we could take one of those very awkward like pandemic Zoom group.
Oh yeah, that'll be nice.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's see. Any hardware updates at this point? I don't expect a lot. I love the PSA from last week. Anything from the New England group on Grape 1?
Well, all of them have been shipped other than the West Point. And I think of the last two that were shipped, one of them's already been received, I think. So they were all the last two were supposed to arrive today or earlier than today at their destinations.
I'm happy to say that we're making some progress on the West Point one. Hopefully it will be able to get there in time. But there are some legal issues, and it turns out that to avoid filling out a complicated legal form called a CRADA, they had to buy the hardware from us. So Scranton is invoicing West Point for the hardware costs only, and then West Point is supposed to send us a check, and that goes back into the grant, and then their grape officially becomes theirs. I think the rest of the grapes that are being sent out to people, they're technically property of the University of Scranton. They are, they're bought with NSF dollars. So I suppose we could ask for them back at some point. That's not the intention, or if something happened to it, it broke down or something, we're not going to come after anybody. But West Point was like, no, it has to actually be ours.
No, that is so government. I mean, the overhead from doing that is at least 10 times the value of the system.
Oh yeah, it absolutely is. So I mean, it's been ridiculous. What might happen? There is a situation where I might ask for people to send things back, and that is, as we develop the Grape 2, we're going to do a Grape 2 deployment. And, I could see a situation where people end up, someone wants to get an upgrade to a Grape 2, and we might ask you to send your Grape 1 back at some point, because then we might rehome it to some other person who, wants to have something. Because I think having as many data points as possible is better, and why waste a perfectly good Grape 1? So that would be a situation where we might say, would you be willing to give up your Grape 1 if you are not using it anymore? And then we would rehome it to another willing volunteer. Also, some other things, I guess, since I have the floor right now, I really want to thank the New England Grape group for all of their hard work. I think it's absolutely amazing what you have done. And it's beautiful. I have it. I'm at my house right now because Bob McGuire and my student Gerard are here working on this Ionoson project. Say hi, Bob and Gerard.
Hi.
And then
Hi.
and then I've got my Grape 1 digital RF running on my desktop right there. And if I can see this, I had a flip. It is, I've got it. Can you see it? It's behind that monitor there. So I have it all hooked up and running, and it worked flawlessly. The box that came shipped so nicely. The documentation was great. I just plugged it in. It was like perfect.
I like your many GPS hockey pucks.
Yes, well, I do. We're working on getting away from that. So the Grape 1 digital RF is actually not connected to that. I actually do now have a let's see. I now have an external GPS antenna over here, which you can, yeah, right there. So that's the GPS antenna, and I have that going into an 8-way splitter. So right now I have two things hooked up to my 8-way splitter. One is Jonathan Rizzo's VLF receiver, and the other is the Grape 1 digital RF. And I'm planning on eventually hooking the other things up to it, as well as I get a chance to test it and make sure it works. But so far it's good. In that 8-way splitter, I think Jonathan found it. I think it's GPS only, but it was fairly inexpensive. I think it was like $200 for an 8-port active splitter, which is really good for GPS splitter. So that's good.
You put the link to that up in the chat?
Yeah, I'll try and find the link to that. I have to go look up in my system, but once I find that, I will be happy to put the link in the chat. The other thing I'm doing is I'm running, so I have all of my HF receivers running off of a single off-center fed 80-meter dipole. And I have that going into John Gibbons 4-port preamplifier. And then attached to that, I have a Kiwi SDR. I have a Red Pitaya that's running an RBN CW skimmer. I've got an Edis USRP that's listening for oblique ionosons. And then I have the 4th port is attached to a mini circuits 3dB 50 ohm splitter that then goes to both the Grape 1 original and the Grape 1 digital RF. So I've got 5 things going off of that antenna. So it's a little complicated.
Wow.
Yeah, but a couple other things. As I sent in an email, we have this PR person that the university has hired to try to get our name out, more. And I think he's been doing a pretty good job because so far I've been interviewed by the Washington Post and the BBC. And the BBC said that they're supposed to come out with a story tomorrow and ask me for some photos. So start Googling HamSci Eclipse and Eclipse Ionosphere and see what pops up. We'll share that as it comes out. But our PR person was also interested. He's like, is there a good human interest story? And so I thought the New England Grape group would be a really nice group to kind of feature. And so I sent that, put him in contact with Stan Pazerski and with some of the other people. And so hopefully you'll get a nice little story out of that. And my student Gerard, he also had an idea for what the New England Grape Group should call themselves. He suggested you should be called the Concord Grapes. So George doesn't like that, but that's okay. that was
we were going to be the Grape Nuts, but no, that didn't work.
That didn't work either.
But it's Concord.
Concord.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Grapes works well.
So,
You know,
just
there's a
jump in,
problem,
so-
guys, there's a problem with that. Concord grapes are an Ohio varietal.
Mm.
You know, sorry.
Are an Ohio variety of grapes.
But
Well,
there
the
is a
original
Concord
grape
right in the
came from
center
Ohio.
of those guys.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. I just thought it was a cute name. You don't have
It
to
is cute, but I don't recommend it.
Okay.
Well,
sounds
but
good.
forced from Ohio.
Also, Bob McGuire over here, I showed him the output of the Grape digital RF, and he's like, this is going to be amazing data set for machine learning. So he's like super excited about that. So
Excellent.
yeah, so there's tremendous amount of excitement. Bill Engelke showed me some plots a couple days ago where he has some concerns about some things going on with the amplitude. But where, I think from talking to him some more, we have to figure out, is it instrumental? Is it, there's been a lot of geomagnetic activity and solar flares and things like that. So it could just be that there was some sort of geomagnetic disturbance or solar flare disturbance that caused the amplitude to drop suddenly, which is absolutely possible. So I think for the moment, it makes sense maybe to run a few engineering tests. But if those come up inconclusive or whatever, I think we should just keep running as we're running and then try to figure out, look at those periods. And that's a really great place to say, okay, is it picking up a solar flare? Is it picking up a geomagnetic storm? Is there some geophysical reason? And I think we shouldn't discount that possibility.
Is yours the only one that did that?
No, I don't know if mine did it at all. Bill Engelke is the one who's been doing the daily summary plots. He's working on that, and he showed me a number of other stations. So maybe when we get over to him, he can give a presentation on that. So I had only gotten my Grape running Sunday morning. I finally got it all put together. So I don't think he had any of my data yet, but hopefully he has some now. And he found a number of stations where there were kind of amplitude issues. So I'll let Bill explain it.
Yeah, hi. Art here, KD60. I have about 40 dB of carrier noise, but my signal strength overall is rather low, peaking at about 80 down. Is the absolute level really important? Like, should I view that as a problem, or should I just leave well enough alone?
Well, first of all, you cannot rely on that vertical scale that's labeled relative gain dB. It's not calibrated. And I believe that if you can see the spike in the middle of the passband, that's good enough.
Okay. All right. It doesn't come up the right colors on the waterfall, but it's a very pretty sort of
smeary yellow line.
Well, it's sort of a light blue-green on a darker blue-green background.
Yeah.
But by eyeball, the carrier is clearly distinguishable.
Yeah.
Where are you located?
I am in California. I am in Sacramento.
Okay.
Do you see a fair amount of red on your waterfall?
D60.
Currently, I do not see any red. I'm not getting that much signal.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay.
So
I have quite a bit here on a 40-meter drooping dipole that's shared with two different grapes.
Yeah, I'm using an old pixel loop. So I'm not surprised that the signal is not that strong. I just wanted to make sure it was usable. Otherwise, my question was, should I try to boost the RF or should I try to boost the audio? But it sounds like the answer is neither.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
You're welcome to share some of your screenshots to the Grape Google, Hamside-Grape Google group, and people can take a look at it. One of the nice things about the way the Grape is designed and what we really care about is that we care very much about the frequency measurements more than we're caring about the amplitude measurements at this time. And so even if you have some variations in amplitude, or you have something that's, you know, a little weaker, as long as you're able to get the carrier strong enough that we're able to measure the frequency variations, that's what we're really going to be paying attention to at this time.
Yeah, and as I say, the carrier is 40 uncalibrated dB up from my noise floor.
Yeah.
So
So
if you think
I'd
the
imagine
software
it's
can
fine
pick that
then.
out.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. Also, I'm sorry, since I'm being tedious, since I'm sort of doing my own assembly here, my Bodnar, I should be setting that 2 kilohertz off. No?
Oh, 1
No,
kilohertz.
1 kilohertz.
1
lower.
kilo. Okay, then ignore all that.
And
Do
that'll
we
give you
whether
problems.
on high side or low side?
You want to do the low side, so you have a
Okay.
mix plus frequency
So-
offset.
99.99 kilohertz.
Yes.
Then.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Bueno. Thank you.
0.999 megahertz.
Right. And I do notice that my carrier frequency is just a skosh off the zero on the display, but can I write that off to being uncalibrated?
That
It looks
varies
like it's maybe,
with the,
you know, 20, 30 hertz off the 0 point roughly.
Oh, that's
no,
way off.
that's too much. Yeah, too much.
Okay.
How can you
Well-
tell?
Well, let me change to 1 kilohertz
What-
offset and see what that does
Yeah.
for
Yes.
It-
that
it-
would
me. Yeah,
be
I'm still struggling to get the VNC working, or I would give you pictures. So I hope I'll progress on that. Also, back on the hard disk issue, I did run into that problem of the disk, which I had prepped on a different Pi, being owned by root, and I had to change it to be owned by Ubuntu, and that worked wonderfully well. Okay, great, thanks. Let me roll over here and retune my my Bodnar. Sorry for the interruption, Rachel. Back to net.
No, you're good. Actually, I assumed that we'd be doing a fair amount of troubleshooting on Grape stuff in the last couple weeks, and everyone's been pretty quiet. Which could mean because everything's working perfectly, but more likely means everyone's just not saying anything. All right. Any other... Where did we leave off? One more check-in on this. Are you guys still working on reimbursements for the wall warts?
Submitted all the paperwork to Solicitor.
Okay, so
Lisa?
soon to...
And I signed the check voucher form yesterday.
Go ahead and mark that as completed.
One thing I have to do is I don't think maybe this is a mistake on my part. I don't think I clearly assigned someone to track the extra $4,800 that we dedicated to the Grape 1 build in deployment. So I have to go back to our accountant and get a pull of where we are on the grant. So I think I have to check that to make sure. But in case there's any everything should be fine. There is enough money. Even if we run over that a little bit, we will be fine.
That's always good. Let's see. I think I'll leave the rest of that to backlog for the moment. Oh, I guess there was one comment on software last week. Gary, you weren't here. Did you and Bill Engelke talk about where those last SD cards would need to be sent to?
Yeah, as far as I know, everything's been shipped. 14 of the 15 systems. All the people like Arthur are building their own. I'm not aware of any needs at this time.
Perfect.
If we want to do more systems, I think I have enough SD cards to make 4 or 5 additional new systems whenever they're needed. So.
Okay. And okay, and Gary, did you track the shipping so everybody's got theirs basically?
No, I'm going to, I've got to check the central control system, see who's uploading there, and then whoever is not, I will reach out to them in the next couple of days.
And by the way, Nathaniel, you are uploading.
I'm uploading.
Well, your little pin is green.
Oh, yeah. No, I know that.
Okay.
Yes, I should be uploading. I should be uploading 2 things. My pin's always been green for a while because I'm also uploading magnetometer data. So
how are you doing that? Because I have not gotten the magnetometer to run yet on my system. I can't talk to it.
I don't know. I have my magnetometer is running on a completely separate Raspberry Pi from any of my Grape.
Okay.
So it is a independent Raspberry Pi that's running Dave Witten's software. And then I had a session with Bill Engelke where he said, do these things. And then it started sending data to his server.
Okay, because I can't get the magnetometer to talk to the Raspberry Pi. And I've been fighting it for 2.5 weeks with Dave Witten, and he doesn't know what's wrong either. So I'm not sure what's going on. I can see it, but I can't talk to it.
You're using the same Raspberry Pi are you using a completely different Raspberry Pi from the Grape, or are you using the same one? Or
right now it's on its own system. It's on the Grape 2, actually.
Yeah, I don't understand why you're having trouble. I wonder
because I'm seeing it and it's IDing it and everything is, well, we'll talk about it later when we get to that.
Okay. Maybe you should get another magnetometer board or try.
Yeah, that still hasn't happened yet. They haven't replied to me. So I still have to, yeah.
Okay.
That's been crickets for 2 weeks.
Have you emailed John Ackerman?
Actually, I'm working with John Ackerman on the
okay.
He suggested me on another person, so I have to try that yet.
All right. So yeah, so if you're having trouble with the Tapper store or anything and you have good communication with John Ackerman, let John know.
Okay.
John is definitely, he's on the Tapper board and he's very he's responsive and he very much cares about this. So
yeah, I talk to him 2 or 3 times a day or a week because we're working together on the something else we'll talk about.
Wonderful. Yes, I think he's emailed me a little bit about that too. So yeah, if you're having trouble with them, talk to John Ackerman and he should be able to straighten you out.
Yeah, as far as I know, my magnetometer is working okay and reporting. I don't have any feedback that it's reporting though.
Are you able to? You should be able. Have you set it up to connect to Bill Engelke's server?
As far as I know, it is, but I don't remember what I did to set it up.
I don't think so.
Does Bill Engelke have software that he expects to run for the data format for feeding his server?
Well, there is, put it this way, we're going to use the same, for magnetometer data, we're going to use the same data format as used for the legacy magnetometer upload. It's just going to go to my server. And there's a separate upload package for that.
Do you have a copy of that?
Who are you asking the question to, John?
To you, Bill. Do you have a copy of that software?
Yes, I'm running it on my system.
Can you somehow get a copy to me, like email it or put it someplace I can get to it?
Make a note of that. I'll make a note of that. Yeah.
Because my magnetometer's been in the ground now for a month, but I can't get it to do anything.
Well, I mean, you got to get the magnetometer working before you bother with trying to upload. But
Well, I can see it, and I can ID it and talk to it. It's just the code that Dave Witten has sent me. It just doesn't, it's stuck in a loop. We're not quite sure why.
Huh.
So I might have a bad magnetometer.
Well, I can send you my complete package, and then
Okay.
you can play with it a little bit. I will say this though, I had two magnetometers and one of them just died. It quit responding entirely. I think maybe it took a lightning hit or something. I don't know for sure, but this equipment does occasionally just go bad on you.
Yeah. Well, I've got extra boards, so I'm not worried about that. But it's just, one of the things is I want to get this working on Grape 2 because the Grape 2 has that interface built directly into it. And I'd like to get 50 of them, but we'll have to. Well, I don't want to hijack the meeting on that right now, unless we're talking about that.
That's okay. I do want to make sure that there isn't anything else on Grape 1 just because
exactly.
the clips, I can't push that deadline for everyone.
I just put the link to the GPS splitter in the chat.
Oh, perfect.
And I told people there's been major consternation here in Pennsylvania because the SCQP is on the same weekend as the Pennsylvania QSO party, and we're trying to resolve how people can participate in both activities at the same time. I told my local club yesterday that I did request to NASA to push back the eclipse so it didn't conflict with the Pennsylvania QSO party. But because of bureaucracy at NASA, I haven't been able to get a response from them on that request.
Good luck.
Nobody laughed.
I got a laugh last night. But the solution we came up with is we're going to have a check log option for the QSO for the SCQP. So if you want to operate a Pennsylvania QSO party or the or whatever QSO party you want, or just submit any log, you won't get scored and you won't get entered into get ranked, but you will get a certificate of participation. So you can, if you're involved in one of those other contests, you can just submit a check log.
I saw where somebody asked NASA to enlarge the Earth's orbit a little bit to reduce this global warming problem.
Well,
that's one option.
They probably got the same response that I got for asking to postpone the eclipse.
Yeah.
The request probably went to the same department.
So just a couple of other Grape 1 things.
Yes.
I did receive an email from Bill Johnson, Nathaniel, and I will write something up and see what he's really looking for. I write something up and then he can tell me what else he's looking for. I'll talk over with the group today, probably.
That sounds great, Stan.
There are 25 green pins on the map this morning, so that's good. And we added up yesterday, counting the 15, we'll call them the Hamside systems.
Mm-hmm.
The New England Grape Group has put 32 grapes into operation in the last year, probably, or maybe a little more now. 32 we have,
that's
counting
fantastic.
the 15.
That is to say, we had a hand in activating 32 sites, right?
We built them, not a hand.
You built them, okay. But
That's awesome.
About a third of them are FL Digi, and the rest are
Digital
RF. And we
Yeah,
have a few more in the works, but
the map is looking really nice. It's going to be, I'm definitely going to include this map in the reports and the presentations at AGU this year.
and that's all I have, I guess.
That looks wonderful.
One question while we were talking about who's got received their system since N8OBJ's on the call. John, did you get your complete system in the mail?
Yes, in fact, there's a green dot underneath that red one for.
Yep.
It's called Note
Okay,
11.
I would have found that one. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been being overshadowed by somebody.
Yeah, Gary, I have the same problem. I'm being overshadowed by somebody. Mine's actually working in Flagstaff.
Yeah, you just got to zoom in. If you zoom in
Yeah, if
to
you zoom in,
Arizona,
it'll separate.
Yep.
Pretty
There
hard
you
to
are.
see, but you're right. Yeah.
That node
Okay,
looks like
thanks.
it's almost should be Case's node, maybe? I'm not sure. Or is that David Casden's node? Did you get one, David?
Oh,
No, it looks like
irony.
Gary's.
It is Gary's. I thought
Oh,
that was the joke you were making, actually. Because you're telling Gary that you were being overshared. Okay.
Yeah.
That all.
Actually,
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just too much of a chicken to pull the trigger and go from FL Digi to DRF, but with the SEQP coming up, but at some point I'll be on.
We are actually running here several dual systems where we have one Grape receiver driving both an FL Digi and a DRF system. Seems to work. So
on two different pies.
we're still using two different pies. I'm beating on people to try and see if we can put it all on one pie, which would be nice.
Well, the Grape 2
would-
will do that. The Grape 2 is going to capture both DRF and implement the well, essentially a version of the FL Digi algorithm that. And further, what should happen is when we have the FL Digi algorithm set, there should be a script that you can just call on the DRF that will generate the FL Digi equivalent outputs given a block of DRF data. So.
Well, some of these are going to be running this next weekend. So
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
No, is it
I'm
Grape
new
one?
to- I'm new to this group. I'm still trying to get my Grape put together. But I have a question. Being on the West Coast and getting both the signals from Hawaii and from Colorado, and sometimes one is stronger than the other and they switch, is that going to affect the data?
Yes, it will. And so the short answer is yes, it will. And for the moment, we just have to deal with that. There are plans in the future to there are ways that you can separate them out, but we're going to have to increase the bandwidth. Right now, we're only recording say like 5 or 10 hertz of bandwidth around the carrier. We're going to have to increase the bandwidth and record more bandwidth to be able to know if you're getting WWV or WWVH. We're going to have to develop algorithms that could potentially identify in real time which one it is, so that you could continue recording the small amount of bandwidth, but still have a flag identifying which station. It's a research problem. It's not a completely solved problem right now, but I think your data is still useful, and it's just something we have to be aware of.
Okay. Well, of course, I can always put in a very directional antenna like a rhombic or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for the information.
Sure.
Yeah, that's got to be a real problem on the West Coast, because even on the East Coast here, I will often get both equal strength.
Yeah, I often see both.
When you hear the female announcement, you know you got WWVH.
But this is where we have to, in order to really disambiguate between them, we're either going to have to just say record wider amounts of data so that you can capture, say, the voice or the other identifying tones, and then we're going to have to deal with saving that extra, both sending and saving that extra data. So that's one option. And then the second option is we come up with some sort of algorithm that can look at it in real time and decide, am I hearing WWV or am I hearing WWVH? And then as a function of time, you can save the result of that algorithm. And that would be fairly low, take up a very small amount of space. But it's definitely going to be a research project to get that worked out.
Just to brainstorm it for a moment, distinguishing the time tick might give you an indication of whether you're receiving one, the other, or both, because they're at different frequencies.
You could many times hear. Sorry.
Go ahead, Bob.
Many times here in New England, I can see both tones. The 500 and the 600 hertz tones,
Mhm.
and they swap.
Yeah,
They do,
And-
but,
I see that
but we
all the
know
time.
we know what time they swap at. Like that's public information, and that so like you can look at the timestamp and you can tell, are you hearing a 500 hertz tone or a 600 hertz tone, and then you can figure out which one. So
Yeah, but
so yeah,
that's what I'm saying is that the time ticks are always there and they are a different frequency. They're also at a different time.
right.
Yeah,
So
I
that
can
might
see
be the
the,
most consistent way to distinguish.
And
I
but
can
this
see the
is-
different time ticks and see the different times that they come in.
But this is where we're going to have to talk about either increasing the default bandwidth that these systems are receiving, which that is going to be the safest if the systems can handle it. That's going to be the safest way to make sure we capture all of the information.
Well, the
And then-
Grape 2 is going to capture the full 8, or I'm sampling at an 8 kilohertz rate and capturing that entire thing.
Then it won't be a problem.
Yeah.
So it's right now with the Grape 1 DRF.
Right.
So
Would it be of any value for me to make just an IQ recording from the same antenna that we could compare?
absolutely.
Okay.
Just FYI, if you get the regular Grape DRF system running, it is recording IQ.
But I think what
Okay,
he's
but
saying is
it's narrow. We're
it's
looking
narrow.
for the 500,
Oh, you mean the whole
600,
spectrum?
right?
Okay, yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, John,
I will add that.
what's the bandwidth of the audio you're bringing out of the Grape?
About 3 kilohertz.
Oh, so it's
So you can
frequency
get
translated,
1
but the
kilohertz
ticks are
from
there.
WWV or the 1.2 kilohertz from WWVH are easily discernible.
Right. But you're basically translating them up to 2 kilohertz and 2.2 kilohertz.
Actually 1 kilohertz and 1.2.
Well,
I
the
don't
carrier
want
is at
to-
1 kilohertz.
I don't want to
I'm
change
sorry, you're right.
anything. I don't want
Yeah.
to change anything now before the eclipse, but I think in the future, I'd like
Yeah.
to see about for the Grape 1 digital RFs, see if we can increase the bandwidth to at least get those 500 and 600 hertz tones.
Well,
But-
that's what I'm saying, Nathaniel, is the bandwidth is there.
right. But we haven't
But
tested
it's the analysis part of it that
right. We
needs to
haven't
be improved.
tested this system in terms of being able to handle that bandwidth with the Grape 1 digital RF. We haven't tested. I think we just before we turn that switch, we have to do a little more testing on it. And I just don't think there's the time to do that before.
No, certainly not before this one.
Yeah.
No.
But after this one.
But right now, Grape 2 is slotted to be at 9.9995. So I'm going to be doing a 500 hertz analysis rather than a kilohertz.
Okay.
Then brings it down to 1,000 or 1,200. That's still I'm in a 3 kilohertz bandpass, so that's still well within what we want to do. So
right.
I should say on my development system, I have tested using the existing Grape DRF system to record as wide of a bandwidth as what the Grape system is putting out, and it is able to save it. Of course, it makes huge files, but it'll do it.
yeah, it's about 10.5 gig of data per day.
That's probably about right.
Maybe
the
Bill Engel.
Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Okay, sorry. Maybe if Bill Engelke, if it's not hard to is it hard to make that change? Like if let's say just if I wanted to set my station to record wider, would it be hard for me to make that change?
You want to do it prior to the eclipse?
If we do just 1 or 2 stations, like just me, or
I'd be happy to do it too because I'm running and I've got the 4 terabyte drive, so I can handle
or
it.
maybe Art over on the West Coast, because we know that he actually has that problem. So I'm more likely just to get WWV, but you pick a station like Art, he has that problem. So there's So if we could just get like his station and a couple of West Coast stations to record the extra data, we already know they definitely have a problem. So this might.
Not a problem, it's an opportunity.
That's right, opportunity.
The,
Well, I don't advocate changing anything between now and the eclipse, anything at all. I would recommend freezing the system.
so
Okay.
Because what you could easily do is you could do something that would screw up the uploader, and then
Yeah.
you wouldn't get anything off that system.
We don't want that. So yeah, so Art, I think your offer of simultaneously recording a wider bandwidth IQ is much appreciated.
Okay.
the 500 and 600 kilohertz or hertz tones, of course, contain the same information as the carrier.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're not there all the time. And
That's the problem.
Yeah, but at least you know a priori when they should be there.
Right.
And so instead of decoding at 1 kilohertz, you either go to the higher tone or the lower tone frequency and doing the frequency measurement at those frequencies.
Or
And
you
it's
just
actually,
modify the frequency measurement to do both.
I think we should continue. I think we should move along for now because I think this is going to be a complicated discussion, and I think it's an important discussion, and we definitely need to keep having it. But I think
now's not the time.
Yes.
I can give a quick update from my end. I just have several little quick points. Right now, we have 17 people who are uploading on a daily basis. I might note that if you look at the observations, you will see some dupes in there where the same station shows up twice or maybe even 3 times. That's due to some peculiarity in the way we're getting data out of the database to display it. The data is not duplicated, but since I'm freezing the system, I'm not going to try and fix that now. We'll fix that week after next. So on the amplitude question, I haven't had a chance to see if this is an ongoing problem. We'd had several stations which would see drops in their amplitude, and I worked with a guy in Birmingham who is one of our users, and the problem happened for a day or two and then went away. So, and I've spoken with him in detail. He can't identify anything in his house that's turning on at night, which would cause the signal to drop. So right now we're thinking it may indeed be a physical phenomenon coming from solar activity or geomagnetic activity. So in other words, something cool and scientific, not something to worry about. So, but we'll keep looking at that. Finally, I do have a flex radio version of the system running on my own system. I'm recording 15 megahertz in digital RF format. I don't have an uploader working for that yet, but this whole system can be provisioned to run on a flex radio as long as you have either the flex radio's built-in GPS or a Leo Bodnar hooked up to it. It will do it, and everything works fine. And then finally, PA0 RWT, a station in the Netherlands, is in the final few tinkering to get his Grape system that he has built from scratch up and running on his end. I believe he's going to record CHU because he is getting interference on the WWV frequencies from a couple of other frequency standards in Europe. So anyway, that's my report.
So Bill, the amplitude issue then is not only just with the amplitude or the boards that have my preamp on them, they're done without the preamp as well.
The amplitude problem has only been seen in stations that do not have the PA, the power amp, that is the preamp.
Oh, so it's not the preamp issue then?
Definitely not the preamp.
Oh.
We know it's not the preamp.
Okay.
Whatever it is besides that, we still have to nail down, and we might not be able to nail it down, but we'll see. We'll just keep watching for it.
The fact that it's so solid for 4 hours tells me it's got to be somehow generated, because that's not a natural phenomenon.
I tend to agree, but
who knows? You need to get a spectrum
Who knows?
analyzer and take a look at
who
it.
knows?
Back to net.
Yes. Okay, any other questions, comments, or concerns from the current deployed Grape station? So anything that anybody needs for the Eclipse?
Mike PSWS9TKK.
Go ahead.
My station is apparently not uploading data. I had a failure issue several days ago, and I've been receiving lots of good input on try this, try that, and currently my station is so fouled up. I need somebody possibly on a Zoom call where I can use the camera from my tablet here and have them say, okay, I can see what the problem is on the screen. I need some real-time help. Possibly if I get the VNC install, which I've not been able to do, somebody can remote in and help fix issues. But I am not familiar with Linux, and all this stuff is over my head. I'm not even sure if the binary GPS is outputting correctly.
Is this for a digital RF installation or an FL Digi installation?
Digital RF.
Okay.
Well, maybe after we finish this call and the group gets off, we can, Mike, you and I can stay on and we can tinker a little bit and see what we can get figured out.
Great, appreciate that.
We'll try it. As far as running VNC, several people have tried to get a VNC server running, and I'm not aware that anybody's been successful yet. I burned a couple of hours messing with that and finally said, I have to let somebody who knows more about the internal guts of Linux work on this, because it's beyond me.
Roger that.
One thing that I have done at my station is I've bought HDMI switches at my, so I can just I've got multiple systems into a 8-port HDMI switch, and I can just push the button and it lets me switch between monitors. You can get some of these fairly inexpensively on Amazon.
Yeah,
and
I got one too as well.
Yeah, I also
do the keyboard and mouse as well.
You can get those as well. The way I did it was I have a separate keyboard switch from my monitor switch, because I wanted to be able to, I've got 2 monitors. I wanted to be able to select any keyboard I wanted at a time and any monitor. I wanted it all to be independent. But yes, you can get integrated systems called KVMs. You can do them separately. So I think that's a good solution. I saw that Ward Silver posted answered about the inexpensive monitor system. There was one that someone said, okay, here's a little 10-inch one. I think we actually have one here at the university that seems to work. I can't speak to how RF quiet it is or not at this time. I know Phil Erickson put some warnings out about that.
Yeah, I got some 10-inch ones and some 13.1-inch HDMIs, and one of them has a touchscreen on it as well. And there's a really nice keyboard for the Raspberry Pi on a touchscreen that works well.
This is Mike Bass, WA9TKK. Ward, I believe, made a comment about the HDMI to micro HDMI adapter. I'm using one on a VGA monitor, and it's working fine. So I haven't had any issues with that. I'm using a old Asus monitor dedicated strictly for the digital RF setup.
Ken Mills, AI7LF.
Okay. AI7LF.
Yeah, a couple questions. I have Grape 1 with the Doppler running, and the question is whether it's of any value for the Eclipse to switch that to digital RF, or just leave well enough alone.
I think at this point, leave well enough alone.
All right.
Unless you're confident in your ability to do it in under a week. There are a lot of other Grape 1 Classic stations still running for the Eclipse, and there's still active research for it.
Okay.
Yes,
And then how do I know? How do I know if I'm successfully uploading my data?
Let's see, I gave you a node number, didn't I, Ken?
Yes, you did.
Okay, I thought the name looked familiar.
Yeah.
Let me run to the website and see if I can see it.
Okay. And then while you're doing that, has anyone, I've noticed in looking at the FL Digi, if I key my transmitter, which is on another antenna, it has a pretty big effect on the waterfall. Does anyone have any experience with a reasonably priced filter? I was thinking putting a bandpass filter on the Grape 1.
And what I bought was a 10 megahertz 30-meter bandpass filter from Array Solutions, and that helps. But even with that filter in there, I still see disturbances on the waterfall similar to the voice announcements from WWV or WWVH. But at least the filter keeps my 100 or more watt transmitters from burning up the Grape.
Yeah. Where? Say
It's
again.
referred to as a raisin.
Array Solutions. They make all sorts of filters. They're somewhere in Texas, I think. Array Solutions. I
Okay.
forget what they used to be called.
All right. And then does it destroy that if we have visible
another good source for filters is mini circuits.
Yeah.
I use a like 3 to 30 megahertz bandpass filter that they have to help just get rid of like especially on campus to get rid of AM broadcast stuff and that low noise stuff. But mini circuits is a good source for all sorts of splitters and filters.
Yeah.
What the Array Solutions people do is they null out adjacent ham bands. So they're really good for use at field day when you got lots of transmitters together. They're specifically for an individual ham band.
There's also the NVARC bandpass filters for. I don't know if anybody is. We designed and Stan and I designed and build a bunch of filters for field day protection, and that's documented. But it's a wind your own kind of filter.
Called an ugly filter, and it was in QST, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
No. It's just on the web page. NVARC.
Okay, Ken, you're number 74, correct?
Yes.
You are not uploading any data. Have you done the X for on command?
I think I have, but I'll do it again.
You can look in the Xfer stat file under the stat directory and see what's happening.
It'll tell you about the transfers. Yeah, that's actually in the new instructions how to look at that.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Very good.
Which is version 1.05 now, by the way.
Okay.
Wow, 1103 already, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Any other Grape 1 deployment stuff? Although at this point we might have to call it for the mailing list and do a quick Grape 2 update. Anybody's station on fire right now, I guess. Any emergency Grape 1 troubleshooting? Okay, let's do a quick Grape 2 update. John, take it away.
Yeah, it was a pretty rough week. I ran in, got pretty much torpedoed on the frequency standard. The U-Block's GPSDO does its disciplining by doing pulse skipping and not frequency adjustment, which creates a spectral disaster. I've been working with John Ackerman on the actual implementation that was going to be used on the Tangerine. He sent me one of those. I got it reprogrammed and on the web server, local web server that the little Pico runs, working last night, and then it quit on me. I'm trying to evaluate that implementation, but the problem is what they have is not really ready for prime time yet. It's still in development. And to be absolutely blunt, I do not have the time to do a Leo Bodnar design development to get this thing out. So I'm looking at alternative ways of doing this. I thought about if we just reuse the Leo Bodnar GPS deals, but the problem is you don't get the 1 PPS and you don't get the NEMA string, of which we need that and the frequency as well. So David Kasdan turned me on to a place called Jackson Labs. I'm in the process of researching boards from them that we could possibly use to do to create this frequency standard. I'm also taking a look at where the design sits for the Tangerines board and see if it's good enough. If it's simple enough to make work, I will, but I haven't been able to get it to lock, and there's a lot of code that's running on a Arduino Nano IoT 33 board, which is serving a web server page to control it, which is not obviously a solution for us. So I'm in a bit of a pickle right now. This is the sort of the last major hurdle. I have collected data from the data board at the full frequency spectrum collection, and it's working. The only problem I run into is the ext4 defaults, I believe, to a 2 gigabyte file limit. I keep hitting that.
It's actually the 32-bit operating system.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm hitting
is,
something that's stopping me from going past 2 gigabytes.
Yeah, I'm working on that, so I
So,
should have a solution this week.
But that shows us that the digital RF deck, I think, is ready for prime time. So I think I can start moving ahead on getting those made. But it also tells me that the digital RF deck is not ready for prime time because the frequency standard isn't there yet. So I am in crisis mode trying to get that figured out, because that's really the last major step that we have to get working reliably. So that, and I'm still fighting with the magnetometer. I can see it. If I change the ID that's read from the magnetometer to make sure I got the right model number, and I change it to something different, it complains immediately. So I know I'm talking to the magnetometer and it's reading its ID correctly. It's just Dave doesn't understand why it's doing a status for looking for data ready, and it's coming back not ready. And it's in a tight loop of doing a read, write, read, write, read, write. And we haven't figured that out yet. So I don't know if I got a bad magnetometer board. I'm going to try and switch it out since I have a couple of them. So that's a work in progress as well. And other than that, there's not much going on. Back to that.
Okay. Not much we can do on that end from a net perspective, but working, let's see, is Kung on? And do you have any quick updates?
Kung, I think, had a dental appointment. I think Kung had a dental appointment today. The dental or eye, one of those. And he wasn't able to join us today.
That's fair. And I think I saw 88Y take off already. So I'm gonna call that a full lid.
Yeah, Kung did write me a piece of test software to look at the saved data in the run diagnostic command, and have been able to verify that I can run it for up to, the 2 gigabyte file limit, and it receives exactly 8,000 samples per second every second, and there are no zeros in it. So we're transferring data and everything's coming across fine. So I'm pretty happy about that. So we're collecting data. We're able to save it to a file. Kung is in the final process of putting the headers on it in the final data format. And so that's all looking good. So that's a good sign. So we're making progress on that front as well.
Perfect. Okay. Any other open agenda discussion? I might just cap it at announcements at this point. I feel like we did cover a lot of open stuff. Any announcements, questions, comments, or concerns? Okay. I'm gonna call that closed then, just because we are 10 minutes over and I'll have to go to class soon. If anybody wants to stay on and continue to discuss Grape 1 stuff, I think feel free to do so. Anything else, Dr. Frizzell?
I think that's all. I think I'm gonna run Gerard on and Bob onto campus so we can do some things down there, and we'll keep marching on.
Okay.
See people at 4 for the solar eclipse telecon.
Yes. So we'll have one more meeting next week, and then the long eclipse weekend begins.
That's right. Unless NASA grants our request.
Good luck with that.
I'm sure hoping that there's not a bunch of clouds over Oregon, but I don't hope with much hope.
Yeah.
Well, Cleveland's worse than that probably, but yeah.
And also, don't look to Congress for relief. They're not going to help us. They're in their own tizzy.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Don't go there.
No.
Right. I'm gonna head to class then. 7-3, everyone.
7-3.
7-3.
Take care, everybody.
And,
Oh, I will
and
say,
Gary,
have,
thank you for
Grape-
stopping by yesterday.
No, I enjoyed it. I'll do that again.
That was a very pleasant surprise. It was well received. Thank you. Somebody knows that I'm a real person.
Please leave the recording